Okay, welcome back in. DJ's on assignment. He'll be back tomorrow. We had him on. Big news coming out of Utah's camp. They decided to go with the freshman. First-year freshman did have spring ball. Isaac Wilson as the backup to Cam Rising, thinking that maybe that gives him a leg up. Now, somebody who's worked with him and knows quarterbacks in and out is Riley Jensen. Jake Scott sitting in. Riley, good morning. What did you think when you heard that announcement?
I thought it was apropos, right? Like I thought that was about what I thought was going to happen.
You did? You thought it was going to happen. And by the way, neither of us speak French.
On our show.
We don't speak French, so don't give me the apropos stuff. Speak regular English here. Don't get all fancy. You thought it was going to happen.
I did think it was going to happen. I talked about it.
I'm not denying that you said that. I'm not denying that. I just
You're so disagreeable. I don't know what to do with you.
I didn't think that it was going to happen. You did. So you're not surprised. I'm at least mildly surprised.
Here's why I'm not surprised. The reason why I'm not surprised, number one, Isaac was a phenomenal quarterback at Corner Canyon High School, and all of the quarterbacks thus far that have played at Corner Canyon, it feels like have gone on to play well at the next level when they've gotten their chance. So there's a pretty good opportunity for a player that plays for Eric Kerr in that high school program to have that translate to the next level. But when you go into a quarterback competition, and this is why you have to be careful when you're getting older in your career in football, and you need to win one of those competitions early in your career, is because the underclassman always has the advantage because they're projecting that if it's even, then the younger guy is the guy that you go with. So really, all Isaac had to do, and I don't take that phrase lightly, but all he had to do was play even with the other quarterbacks to win the competition, where the other two quarterbacks had to be significantly better than the others in order to win the competition. Because you're projecting into the future, you're projecting into what he can be, not what he is. And if it's even, then he's going to get the nod. Now, he has the size, he has the arm strength, he has the athletic ability. There's been plenty of highlights of Isaac Wilson making great throws and great decisions. He comes from a family that, the one thing that I have to compliment Mike Wilson on and Isaac and Zach is they're football junkies. They love the sport. They love the game. There's no question that Isaac was in the film room. There's no question that in spring ball he was sucking in and soaking in as much information as he could from Cam Rising, from the coaches and the coaching staff and Coach Ludwig. And so to me, it's not a surprise from the standpoint of you don't have to do as much when you're young. And I'm not taking away from him winning the second spot. You don't have to do as much to win the second position.
Mechanically, Riley, what does he do right?
Well, mechanically, there's not a lot that he does wrong. If I were to be critical of him, it's when he gets a little bit lazy with his feet that he gets into throwing errors, meaning his feet are facing one way and he's throwing the other. But for the most part, I mean, this is a guy that has really, really solid mechanics. He's a very, very athletic player, and I don't think he's quite as athletic as Zach, but I think in some ways his arm strength is better. I don't know if his accuracy is where Zach's was as a freshman in college, but he's pretty dang close. And so there's a lot to be happy about and a lot to be excited about with Isaac Wilson in the second-string quarterback position. The other thing that I thought was a telltale sign was you have Heward that was coming in really, really late into the game because he's coming in after spring ball. And really with Rose, I think that if we were reading the tea leaves, the fact that he didn't play in the bowl game last year and that they didn't play him and that they didn't give him an opportunity to step up and play in that bowl game was a big indicator about how they feel about whether he could be a future starting quarterback at the University of Utah.
Riley Jensen joining us, quarterback extraordinaire and mental health coach. So you definitely think this says more about Wilson rather than a slight to the others, or is it a combo?
What do you mean by slight?
Well, they're not good enough. So Isaac didn't necessarily needed to wow. He just needed to be okay because the others aren't good enough. I don't know. I'm asking. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah. So I think it's more of a slight. I think it's more of a slight to Rose. I think that you and DJ and that you and Jacob brought up some good points about Howard. I mean, what sort of decision do you make now? I mean, it's really only that you lost the second string position. Now, the hard part about now that this decision has been made is the third and the fourth string quarterback get hardly any reps during team. The only other quarterback that gets reps during team, and it's about 20% of the reps, is the second string quarterback, and that's where Isaac now gets to develop himself, and he gets to step in as a leader. He gets looked at a little bit differently by teammates, and he gets to grow into that leadership position as maybe the incumbent. But as you and DJ pointed out earlier in the hour, it's hard to just say that without an exception to the rule, because football is so different now with NIL and with free transfers and with money that is going out and around everywhere. I don't know that it's just a straight line for Isaac like it used to be, but it's certainly a big step in the right direction for him, and it's certainly grounds for celebration in the Wilson home, because you're doing the things that you're being asked to do. Nobody was asking him to come in and beat out Cam Rising. They were asking him to come in and compete for that second string job. And as of right now, and it always changes in college football, but right now he's the second string quarterback, and that's a big start for him.
How much do you think the probability of a quarterback transferring plays into decisions on depth charts?
More than it ever has. Less at the University of Utah, in my opinion, because I don't think Kyle likes quarterbacks anyway. I mean, and I don't mean that he hates them, but he tolerates them. I don't know how to explain it. Other than Cam Rising, I've never seen him really embrace a quarterback like he's the stuff weekends are made of. I do think that he really likes Cam Rising, but I think in general he doesn't love quarterbacks. He doesn't care about whether they transfer or not.
He does not.
He was winning 10 games a year long before any good quarterbacks came into the program.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. That's not how he's built his program. He hasn't built his program on quarterbacks.
Riley Jensen joining us. What is the deal with all these Elite 11 quarterbacks who are awesome in high school, credible stats, all that, but just don't pan out and then have multiple transfers in college? Because it seems like it may not be the norm, but it certainly isn't unusual.
Well, I heard you and Jake talking about it. I looked it up a long time ago. I went through every single quarterback, and I divided it into quarterbacks that start in the NFL, quarterbacks that you've heard of, and quarterbacks that you've never heard of. And it was about 50% that you've never heard of.
Yeah. So
the quarterbacks that started in college and started in the pros, it was a little bit less than 50%. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot when it comes to Elite 11, but I think it goes back a little bit to the mindset of being rewarded too early. I mean, and this may be my background causing a little bit of bias on this, but there's significant evidence that shows that if someone is willing to pass up good for great, they seem to be more successful and more happy in this life. And there's a whole marshmallow experiment with kids where they're like, hey, there's one marshmallow sitting in front of you, but if you wait, you'll get two of them. And the kids that actually wait and are willing to kind of be able to see into the future that there could be something better, they're the ones that test out better in life and those sorts of things. And so I'm telling a long story to get to the point of quarterbacks that are given too much early, I think are less motivated when they get to the next level. And the best example I can give is that with the exception of John Elway and the Manning brothers, okay, those would be the exceptions to the rule. Most quarterbacks that are really, really good in college and end up being really good in the pros aren't at their dream school. You look at Drew Brees, like, do you think his dream school was Purdue, right?
No, a kid from Texas, probably not.
Yeah. Phillip Rivers grew up in Alabama. You think his dream school was North Carolina State? And I can go down the list of all these guys that continually had the carrot dangled in front of them, and so they continue to grow and progress. And I can even make an argument in other positions, like first-team All-Americans in college. Like, it takes them a minute to find their way in the NFL. And so I think there's something to the fact that you have that chip on your shoulder. You feel like you're never recognized for how good you are, and you continue to grow and progress. And I think that's why some Elite 11 quarterbacks, they can't handle it. Not to pile on Jake Heaps, but that was a guy who played at Skyline High School in Washington. He had 4 Division I wide receivers. I watched him play 7-on-7 when he was in high school. He was never on a team that had bad players around him, and everything was snowplowed and everything was arranged for him to play really, really good football no matter where he was. And his first experience with adversity was when he got to BYU, and I feel like it broke him a little bit because he never had to experience some of those difficulties. Everybody that was around him, whether he went to an Elite 11 camp or whether he went to the Under Armour, like All-Stars, whatever it was, there was always great people around him. And when he got to BYU and he had to fight on his own merit for a minute, it didn't help him, and he ended up – he was one of those guys that transferred to 3 different schools before all these rules happened.
Yeah.
And so I think a healthy dose of adversity and a healthy dose of some sort of experience that builds moxie for a quarterback in high school is really helpful to the next level. And so to get there, it's difficult, and it's difficult to maintain a high level of play at that position.
So you speak of first-team All-Americans needing a little bit of time. How about first-team All-Whackers?
The joke that never dies, right? The joke that never dies. Listen, both of you guys sitting in that room right now, you guys both have some quotes that we can't even replay on the radio.
Agree.
Otherwise,
we shouldn't even talk about
They'd be number one. They'd be number one.
I'm just amazed that we still have
first team All-Whacker.
That drop. Do you know how old that drop is?
Dude, it's made it through 3 different radio groups. It was. I don't want to get into which radio groups, but it's gone from one to another, and this is now the 3rd, and it's at least, I think it's 20 years old. When did Kobe Carl play? Because I was talking about Kobe Carl.
Is Kobe Carl still alive?
I don't know. I think him and his dad have had cancer, and they're doing well, but
he's a first-team All-Whacker.
That was back in our taco maker Jake's Over the Top days, Riley.
It was.
Yeah, buddy. That was good times.
Exactly right. That's
good
exactly
times.
Right.
Who are you referring to again?
Kobe Carl.
Kobe Carl.
He was a first-teamer.
He's a first-team All-Whacker.
Yeah,
So it says he earned first-team All-WAC honors in 2007. So we're talking 17 years ago, guys.
yeah, that's a long time.
17 years ago, and this joke is still alive. Wow.
The best ones always survive, I guess.
They're classics,
no.
yes.
The best ones have to die, or else we'd all get in trouble on the airwaves.
What's the Eagles' most famous tune? Hotel California. What's Riley Jensen's most famous line?
He's a first-team All-Whacker.
Yeah, you don't see the other ones you're referring to aren't that good because we can't play them. That one we can.
It was so innocent and so pure when it came out, and now it just feels like I'm a terrible person. So.
You know that these guys used to call Riley the Aggie under the bleachers? What
That's
was
how I
that
got my
all
start.
I think
about?
that was DJ.
That's how I got my start. I actually remember talking to DJ and saying, well, just, put me on. I'll talk about the Aggies for a 20-minute segment. You can call me the redheaded stepchild because that's how we're treated up at Utah State, And then he changed it to Aggie under the bleacher.
Yeah. That was DJ's term.
I remember.
It was.
So do you think, it's just a guess, and won't hold you to it, but do you think this time next year Isaac Wilson is QB1 for the Utes?
I do, but it will be after like a really, really deep competition into the fall. So yes, and like you and DJ were talking about, there's so many things that can happen between now and then. I still think he'll be in the mix regardless of what happens.
Oh, certainly in the mix, but I'm talking about does this give him a significant leg up that once this 24 season ends, that he then becomes installed when we go into spring ball next March, he's the guy.
I'm predicting that by next year at this time, he will be the starter.
Okay, there it is. All right.
I mean, look, I already nailed number 2. I already nailed that he was going to be number 2. You should listen to me.
I am. You first team all
not
whacker.
that
You get
hard.
so defensive every time I
don't
speak.
understand why this is so hard for you to understand. I'm a big deal. I keep telling you I'm a big deal.
I know you are. I had my doubts because I got other folks in my ear saying his arm isn't big enough. He's too small. And that's what they've told me. It's not necessarily my opinion. I don't know.
You're a lot like my wife, right? You trust me, but you verify.
Well, I got information from other folks saying different things. And, the Utes were under pressure to recruit him. The local guy, you don't want to get another local guy get away. And maybe those folks were wrong. It wasn't my opinion. It's what people were telling me. But you're telling me something that is basically the opposite and is getting me excited for the kid.
I'll tell you this. There's a lot of growth that takes place in college football. The one problem that I had with Isaac when he was in high school is I felt like there was 1 to 2 throws a game that were head scratchers that could have or should have been picked off. And when teams were able to pick him off, they were able to beat him. But a lot of guys in high school weren't able to convert that. So he's going to have to fix that at this level. And it sounds like he's doing a pretty good job of that at the University of Utah.
And some of his detractors also said he was a year older than everybody else in high school. And they wondered how that eventually that washes out in college.
Yeah, okay. He's a good football player. Okay,
there it is. All right. Hey, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We will be talking to you regularly throughout the season.
Can't wait. Talk to you soon.
See you, Riley.
That's Riley Jensen. He knows his stuff. Next year, they've already got their starting quarterback for the next 3 years on their roster. That's awesome. Guys like Jake Scott are fired up, and we will get to that next as to the reasons why. Stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Larry Markkinen agreed to a renegotiated contract this year, bringing his salary from $18 to $42 million. I think it's a good day for the Jazz. If you're a Jazz fan, you're happy about what this means for your team. Lowry truly could have waited a year, played out this deal. He's got $18 million left, and just said, you know what, I'm going to get a max contract next year anyways, and I can choose where I want to go. He chose to stay here. This is a good sign for the Jazz. This is a player in his prime who's an all-star on a losing team that is choosing to stay here.
I doubt that Lowry thinks in his mind that all of a sudden he morphed into an all-star between Cleveland and Utah. I think he likes getting the ball. He probably doesn't think he changed as a player or deserved more or got better. He probably thought, these bozos in Cleveland don't know what they got.
Yep.
They got the finisher, baby.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. And then you listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals. All right, Jake Scott sitting in. He's ecstatic that the Utes have named a backup, a youngster who could be the starter for the next 3 years after 24 season, which means the glory and the great times will continue into the foreseeable future. How about that?
The glory and the great times? I wouldn't say I'm ecstatic. I don't know. Do you believe it?
Do I believe? What are you?
Do you believe it?
Do
you
you
believe
Deion Sanders over here?
No. Do you believe he's the second best quarterback or even the second string quarterback?
Yes.
Because I've heard a lot of people, Ben included, selling me this on Witt missed on Zach Wilson, and so now he's got to do this for Isaac Wilson, and those things are somehow related. And I asked Riley about this, but I can't but help think that the transfer status and things like that are coming in. And, I mean, if it's a true meritocracy and he's the second best quarterback on the league, that's probably good news for Ute fans. But no. I don't know. All this other stuff creeps in that makes me not believe it, or at least doubt it.
Well, there's a couple things. Did you notice, Jacques, he said second best quarterback on the league.
The team.
Man.
He's
already,
All right.
Utes got it's like Gonzaga. They don't only have the best big man in the conference, they got the second best big man and the third best big man.
Thank you, Tim Lacombe.
Utah's quarterback room is so deep. And with all the money that Cam Rising has made, that quarterback room, it's got a sauna in there. It's got a big screen TV. It's got a buffet that is catered daily. And Wilson comes from money. Man, they're living high up there, aren't they?
What's your point?
I only know what the man says. And Whittingham says he's got a live arm. He's got mobility. He's making balls coming out like a freaking cannon shot out of a gun.
And coaches would never manipulate messages for personal gain. I mean, that would never.
So what's his personal gain?
Well, if it keeps Wilson from transferring, or if it really is some sort of political, like you got to play to the freshman because I burned his brother, which seems ridiculous to me, but it's out there. Ben was saying it yesterday. So I don't know. That stuff.
There's stuff that goes into that. I'll tell you what I have heard. And you don't like it, if you want to crack on me, feel free. I don't worry about that stuff anymore. I'm secure in my employment. That I'll address the transfer thing. I once asked Kyle in a group setting, not off to the side, so it was available for everybody. One of these, who was it, Tuttle or Costelli, one of these guys that they had. Yeah. Do you worry about them transferring? And he looked at me and he basically said, I don't give a bleep. If they want to transfer, go. He said it very aggressively. I'm not here to make these guys happy. I'm here to win games. So I don't think he cares about that. I think that was legit. Now, as far as the Wilson thing, yes, they blew it on Zach. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and Jackson Dart, too. I mean, it's happened a couple of times.
Not as much on Dart as Zach.
How so?
Because I don't think they thought he was good enough.
Dart?
No, Wilson.
Oh, okay.
The Dart thing may have been you got in a little late, that type of thing. But then, how many quarterbacks has Utah won versus SC? Well, you're going to win that.
If Utah, I mean, you can blame it on being in late, but if Utah had handled it, I bet he would have gone to Utah. I don't want to speak for him.
Over USC? Kids get stars in their eyes. Urban Meyer, famous line, the kids in California.
Okay, I got you. Fine.
We recruit whoever those two schools don't take.
You were.
So I don't know about that one.
Relaying something you heard,
But
I'm relaying something I heard. So I don't know. I don't know if it.
But I think
I can't
it's
rewrite
more
history.
egregious on the Zach thing.
Okay. I don't think it's great either way.
Right. You got me there. No doubt. I agree with you. I'm just saying.
So this is some sort of compensation? Like, I'm not going to
Well,
make it up for bad decisions in the past? Because that sounds like chasing it.
I think there is some pressure. The Matt Harpering story that was told to me while I was eating dinner, I think it was, maybe lunch with Matt, is that he's lighting it up in Atlanta. But Bobby Cremins at Georgia Tech doesn't offer him. And he's getting all sorts of grief, Cremins is. You didn't offer this kid right in our backyard. Mm-hmm. And in the spring, Harpering, I think, is playing baseball. He gets a call, says, you got to come down to my office. If I remember the story, and this is many years ago that Matt had told me this, he gets called out of baseball practice, goes down to Georgia Tech, which is in downtown Atlanta, basically. Cougars played there. I've been on their campus. And Cremins brings him into the office and says, I'm catching all sorts of crap here. I'm going to offer you a scholarship, but I don't think you're going to play. So don't give me crap. But if you want it, it's yours. So he takes it, right? And this is in the spring. Goes to summer workouts, practice. Starter first game. Starts the whole time. Ends up being one of the top 50 players in the ACC, which at the time I think the Big 12 has overtaken it. But for many, many years, the ACC was the best basketball college basketball.
No, and
college.
he was a great college basketball player. But
Right. He played many years in the NFL. Meaning that Cremins felt pressure. I think the Utes felt some pressure. We can't let another quarterback get away. So what you're saying that Ben was saying, I've heard too, that we got to at least offer this kid.
Sure, but they put him number 2 on the depth chart.
Right. They offered him, and how much of it was a courtesy offer, a local kid? We can't have another local kid just in case he blows up.
No, I see. My point is,
he's got to come here. We got to get this kid.
I hope you're correct because I'm fine. That's how it's supposed to work. And frankly, I shouldn't say supposed to work because this is his program or Utah's program, and they can do whatever they want. I don't care.
But you get pressure when local kids go away, just like BYU gets pressure when LDS kids go away. Double the pressure if it's a local LDS kid, but even if it's an LDS kid anywhere.
But your story about Witt, I don't care. I mean, you can say that all you want, but McKay Hillstead just the other day admitted that he transferred from Utah State because they had the gall to recruit an upperclassman. And he said, he actually used the word entitled, that I'm entitled to more.
He said
so
that?
he transferred.
There was an interview that the Spencer Petras thing pushed him out the door is what he essentially said.
And it might be easy to have that opinion about Tuttle.
But he had some personal reasons too.
Well, I
don't know.
I can tell you.
I'll read you the quote.
The quote is out there, yes.
I didn't see the quote. I missed that one.
Knowing what I know of his...
I'm disappointed in myself that I missed it.
It's okay, but knowing what I know of his backstory, there's more in play than just that. But
right.
he did say that the Spencer Petras coming into Utah State helped him show himself to the door. As
a freshman?
Yes.
So
he doesn't think that's going to happen at BYU? They're just going to open up their blue sea and he can walk across it?
That's what I thought, that he's fine with. What does that say about Utah State? Where it's like, I'm not sitting at Utah State, but at BYU, I'm happy to be third string. It kind of is,
But he didn't have a problem that the pig farmer came. That's a slight to the pig farmer.
Agreed.
Who's currently QB2.
And I'm not exactly trying to pick on Hillstead other than this stuff plays into it. I mean, Riley said it does. He said he doesn't think it plays into it much at Utah, but it plays into it big time.
What do you mean, this stuff?
Placating players so they don't transfer. That's part of the game now. Well, you can be grumpy about it all you want, but that's what they got to do.
Yeah, but see, I think you just got to go and do what's right, and whatever happens. They got burned by Nate Johnson. They didn't want Nate Johnson to transfer.
No, they wanted him to transfer positions.
Move positions.
I know.
Change.
I know.
What defensive spot did they need?
Yeah, right. Where could they put the fastest guy on the team?
Yeah.
I'm sure they didn't want him to transfer. And I remember, who were the quarterbacks there? One was Manning. There were 3 guys they recruited in 1 year.
Oh, yeah. Was it Brandon Cox?
And Brandon Cox. And for years, they managed that situation to keep both of them from transferring. And then I remember they both ended up transferring.
They did.
But Cox didn't transfer until like 2 or 3 weeks into camp because the depth chart came out and he was 3rd or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
I actually think he got his degree.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
From
He was
Utah.
there. He was there for
they
a
said
while.
He was a highly intelligent kid.
And then bounced, and they held off that decision for so long to try and keep him from transferring.
Understood. And then didn't they have a kid, Corbin Laux?
Yes.
Who transferred late.
Yeah.
Ended up being a safety at Nevada.
Went to Nevada.
Yeah.
And it was it game week? Training camp had ended.
And then he bolted.
Yeah. It's like a couple days. Well, my gosh, Brewer quit during the season.
Yeah.
DJ's Charlie Brewer.
Starts for 2 games, and like a week later,
3.
you're right. He started the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Gets benched, and like a week later, he's out.
I think he was gone that Monday.
I think you're right. Yeah. He bolted immediately.
So I guess long and short, I mean, if you actually think he's the second best quarterback on the roster right now, there's reasons to be optimistic for Ute fans.
Why, they
but
named it early.
Call me skeptical, but I don't know.
Okay, skeptical. When we come back, we'll talk about BYU's quarterback situation with skeptical right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
I have the hardest time because I have no foresight and I'm not patient enough. I have the worst time imagining that the last 6 draft picks are going to be what the Jazz build a championship team off of. And then you say add maybe that one big name, probably 2.
That's why the next 2 drafts are so important. I'm not sold on they have an all-star on these last 2 drafts. I'm not sold on that yet. Doesn't mean they can't. Maybe Cody Williams is going to be that guy. Maybe one of these guys emerges as an all-star. I don't know. We don't know yet. But the next 2 drafts have the better options, the more sure bets at the top. You want to be in play for those. You can't guarantee anything, but you need to be in play because the Jazz need that player that can change their franchise fortune around, and the only way they're going to find it is in the draft because that's how it's done now. We're sitting here talking about what's that trade out there the Jazz could make to become a playoff contender. It doesn't exist right now.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Don't miss your chance to win big every week on the Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win a 4-pack of tickets to catch the Salt Lake Bees in action during the 2024 season. Listen to the Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win free tickets at the ballpark, the last year of the ballpark. How about that? A beautiful ballpark. But they're going to go out to daybreak. That's going to be open in time for next season. The ice facilities of the hockey team and the offices, that's going to be open by next season. Man, so much construction going on in Salt Lake City, Utah, and surrounding areas. What's Daybreak? It's not in Salt Lake. I don't know. What's it in?
Harriman?
Harriman? I don't know.
It's technically Harriman, I believe.
Is it technically Harriman?
Oh, well,
so.
It straddles
Or South Jordan, maybe.
It straddles South Jordan and Harriman, I believe.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens. And then in the next 10 years, maybe a baseball park. Wow. Guys like you two, the 2 Jakes, when they're doing the morning show, and it's called the 2 Shakin' with the Jakins.
That's a terrible name.
Yak and Yak?
Better than, what was that?
A pair of Jakes. A pair of Jakes.
Yeah.
A winning hand in the morning in 2035.
You'll still be rooting for the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Phillies, and Cubs?
Giants.
Yeah. The Giants and the Dodgers. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Got to root for both.
Willie Mays was my hero as a kid.
I don't understand how you're so heavy into the NL West.
Turned out that way, huh?
I mean, are you happy every year, or I guess you're only
happy every day.
You're
What do you
only
mean every year?
You're only miserable if the Rockies win,
and they never do.
And they never do. The Rockies ever won.
Last night,
you'd be bent.
I'm watching the game. The Diamondbacks they're down 4-3 in the 8th inning, and 2 outs, and they're the home team. So it's the bottom of the 8th. They get a single. And then they get another single, so they got first and third, right? 2 outs. They send the runner and wild pitch, so the runner from third scores. Now the game's tied. It's 2 outs. The runner who's from first, who was running on the pitch, jogs to third, right? So 2 outs, and there's another wild pitch, and they score the winning run.
Nothing like losing games on wild pitches. I've done that.
And then Diamondbacks are struggling with their closers. They've been running through guys left and right. Bringing this guy, first guy, McMahon's a good hitter for the Rockies, probably their best player, gets a base hit. So they got tying run on, nobody out. Next batter hits a line drive, nice hard hit, but right at the second baseman. McMahon, it's a line drive. What do you do on a line drive? That's
freeze.
Not. Yeah. Well, he takes off.
Oh,
he
no.
gest off too far. Second baseman catches it, throws it over to first.
Double play.
2 outs. So, is this the NBA version? Are they trying to get the number 1 pick here? I mean, like they were throwing the game, literally.
Probably.
Throwing it away. Yeah, they had a chance to win, but no. Bleeped it away. So, yeah, I'm always happy. How about the BYU quarterback situation? They're not going to name a starter. If it goes to game week, I'm wondering if they don't name a starter until the second quarter of the first game.
The second quarter.
Yeah.
That's when they'll name it, when it's not the start of the game.
There's an announcement in the press box. Just so you guys know, we have declared that.
Well, your beloved Whittingham did that once, right? With, who was it? Terrible Tommy Grady and who was the other guy?
Brian Johnson?
Brett Ratliff? Was that it?
Yeah.
Where he did first quarter with one and second quarter with the other against UCLA, I want to say.
That never works. Although, didn't they kick the crap out of him?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it. It's so long ago now.
You got a problem here? We're 2 weeks into camp now, and they still Utah not only has a starter, they've got a backup. BYU doesn't even have a starter.
Well, if I listen to you, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be a meat grinder at the quarterback position because they're going to run him the whole time, and they're
going to run him into the end zone for 6 is what they're going to do.
Just plugging in bodies.
You watch November 9th, buddy. Me against you. My beloved Cougars against your beloved Utes.
So what? I mean, does it matter?
Yes, it matters.
Because all I've heard about is help with the run game.
Help with the run game? What do you mean?
Which quarterback is going to help with the run game? Is these quarterbacks are going to really help with the run game?
I think that they have because they have 2 guys that they think can win. I think that they'll allow the quarterback to run. They'll maybe call running plays, whereas before the last couple of years they were petrified if the quarterback got hurt. It's not like they want to put the guy in a dangerous situation and who cares about his health, but they think that if they need to call a play in which is a design run play or the quarterback can take off, go ahead. Jaron Hall had the ability, but they couldn't afford to get him hurt.
And he had a history.
Slovis was not a running quarterback.
No, but were they petrified Keaton Slovis was going to get hurt?
Well, I think it's a dual thing there, not necessarily petrified, but running wasn't his strength, so don't do it anyway because it's not what you do.
But if they were petrified that Keaton Slovis was going to get hurt, his backup was?
Last year, it ended up being Retzlaff.
So they were petrified to go to the guy
who had 0 experience.
Yeah, they're going to go to now.
And they went 0-4 with him as the quarterback. So yeah,
right.
The logic is there.
So I don't understand about much optimism. I mean, they need a guy who can sling it. Listen, if Bohannon is healthy and he can throw it all over the field now, well then that's great because I don't know if they have that, and I think that's exactly what they need. I don't know why why we even care about quarterbacks helping with the run game. Who cares? Let the run game figure out the run game. Can you drop back and pass it or not?
But and that's the number one thing for sure. But at the same time, you had to acknowledge that Kyle, in one of his listing of attributes of our guy Isaac Wilson, said he's mobile. And running, a mobile quarterback isn't necessarily running to gain yards. It's potentially extending plays.
Yeah, I
think that's important too.
But I don't personally love Coach Witt's vision of what a good quarterback is. And I certainly don't think he's necessarily made the right decisions. And his vision of what a good quarterback is not the same as what a good quarterback is at BYU.
His vision comes from the defensive perspective in terms of how to defend it.
Yeah, fine.
And he believes a mobile quarterback is harder to defend.
Yes,
so
he
that's
does.
why he's fallen in love with the mobile quarterback.
I don't think that's going to work at BYU. I don't think that works at BYU.
What doesn't work?
You don't need a mobile quarterback. Why are you prioritizing mobile quarterbacks? Did Norm Chow give 2 rips if Ty Detmer could run? It's can you stand back there? This is BYU. This is quarterback university. Can you stand back there and sling it? Don't waste your time with this guy can help.
Well, you got to be
game.
able to move. Detmer can move. He could slide.
He's not. You know what I'm talking about. Ty Detmer was not a run guy. And you know what? Steve Young could move too, but he wasn't a run guy either.
They didn't want that.
They should want it now. That's my point.
But I think the game has changed.
Okay. Well, go away. What's worked for 40 years and
yeah, but what's worked? That just because something worked in 1992 means it's going to work in 2024?
Except for it's worked repeatedly and as recently as Jaron Hall, as you just mentioned, to have an upperclassman NFL quarterback who can freaking sling it. We can go list them off. You can list them off.
They didn't want him to run because of injury, and he was injured anyway. And he's an injury-prone guy. He got injured right off the bat in college. I mean, in the NFL.
Utah's had 2 NFL quarterbacks since Scott Mitchell.
Alex and Ratliff?
Well, you could kind of count Ratliff. I guess he was on the practice squad forever. I
thought he got in. Tyler Huntley.
That's what I'm
about
saying.
Huntley?
I'm talking about Huntley.
Yeah.
How many pro quarterbacks has BYU had in that same span of time?
Well, what was that? 2004 till like 2019? I'd have to look that up.
I mean, if you want to, you could say Ty if you put that.
Well, he wasn't in that category. He would have been before.
Scott Mitchell graduated in 88.
You said Mitchell. I thought you said Alex.
No, Mitchell. So since Scott Mitchell, not counting Scott. So we're talking 90s, aughts, 10s, and
that's a long time, man.
That's what I'm saying. Utah's had 2. BYU's had 6, 7.
Do I hear 8? Do I hear 9?
Right?
I have to go back and look off top. I don't know.
Brandon Doman, Ty Detmer, Max Hall, John Beck, Zach Wilson, and Jaron Hall. That's 6 right there. And I'm not even counting Taysom Hill.
Yeah, but I think Yak would say they so poo-poo.
Why?
And you can quote me. Okay, coming up next, I have a friend who wrote a book about Vin Scully. Did you like Vin Scully? Did you listen to him much growing up?
No.
I listened to him religiously growing up when I moved to Arizona.
Don't care for the Dodgers.
Well, he actually did plenty more than just the Dodgers, my friends.
Yeah.
If you don't care,
we're never gonna lose to them. They so poo-poo.
Yeah.
You know what? He was.
Y'all could tweet that.
He was really funny.
I laughed. Sitting right there. Were you there?
I wasn't there for that, but he was often funny. He might have been the last really funny college football player that we've covered.
It's bleeping embarrassing. Excuse my language. All right, we'll get to the interview on the author on the book on Vin Scully. Stay with us. Coming up next on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
4 games straight, we lost. That's embarrassing. Damn, excuse my language, but...
Okay, guys, thanks.